Boker Tov, good morning everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our morning shiur in Chassidut at 9:15 right here in Yerushalayim. Thank you to Raya and Mordechai for hosting and broadcasting our shiur online and of course posting it on our YouTube channel. We are now learning Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of Our Fathers, Perek Shlishi, the third chapter. We're up to Mishna Vav, Mishna number 6. An interesting Mishnah. Please open your siddur or your Mishnah to the right place. Rabbi Chalafta ben Dosa, Rabbi Chalafta, the son of Dosa, Ish Kfar Chananya Omer, a person who lived in Kfar Chananya, he says, Rabbi Chalafta says, in continuation to the second Mishnah where we learned about the importance of learning Torah when people come together. So Rabbi Chalafta goes through the list of different numbers, different amounts of people sitting together. And he starts with the number 10. Asara sheyoshvin, 10 people that are sitting. Ve'oskin b'Torah, and are learning and thriving and learning Torah. Shechina shruya b'neihem. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, rests amongst them. Shenemar, as it says in the verse, Elokim nitzav ba'adat kel. Hashem stands, so to speak, in the congregation of Hashem. What does that mean? It means that that it really is speaking about, this pasuk is speaking, when we say Elokim nitzav ba'adat kel, in a great sense is speaking about the Dayanim, a Jewish court. There are some that have the version in Mishnah Vav, not just Asara sheyoshvin oskin b'Torah, rather Asara sheyoshvin oskin b'Torah badin, in judgment. But nonetheless, the Alter Rebbe chooses the Girsa in the Alter Rebbe Siddur without the word badin, even everyone. In any situation where you have 10 people learning Torah, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there. Hashem is in the presence of 10 people, that are sitting and learning Torah. We're going to learn a few other scenarios of different numbers. And obviously, in each one, there's a different level of Gilui Elokut, of revelation of godliness, depending on the amount of people that are sitting around and learning. Adat, Eida, that's the word of the pasuk. Elokim nitzav ba'adat kel. Eida is 10. We learned by the Meraglim, we learned by the spies, that Moshe Rabbeinu said, Ad matai la'eida hara'a azot. Until when will this evil congregation continue to terrorize us, in the sense that telling us that Eretz Yisroel is a bad place? And we had 12 spies, minus 2 Yehoshua and Kalev. We're left with 10. From here we learn that a minyan is Eidah is 10. Now, parenthetically, it's hard to understand, how do we learn such a holy thing of a minyan from such a negative scenario of the Meraglim and then of the spies? The answer is that when you have a minyan is included of all kinds of people. People on all levels in Yiddishkeit. Like you may be familiar, the word tzibur, congregation, the public, is made up of 3 letters, as you may know, that in Hebrew, the shoresh, every word pretty much has a shoresh, a root word, which is brought together from three letters. So the word tzibur is tzadik, bet, and reish. The tzadik stands for tzadikim, righteous. The bet stands for beinonim, intermediate people, and the reish stands for rishaim, for evil people. And so a tzibur is made up of the 3. no one should say that a minyan is made up only of tzaddikim or even beinanim. Even Rishaim, as long as the person is Jewish, a person can be considered part of the minyan, which is something which is very, very special and welcoming. Therefore, the whole source, how do we know that a minyan is even considered a minyan? And that you can say a davar shebekdusha, something of holiness, kaddish, kedusha, baruch hu, amongst 10 people, from the scenario of the Meraglim, that all of the 10 were not good. That means that a minyan, Hashem's presence, can find himself, can be present even in a minyan of 10 sinners. Let's move along in the Mishnah. Uminayin afilu chamisha. And how do we know that even by 5 people who are sitting and learning Torah together, that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there? The proof is, Shenemar, as it says in the verse, Va'agudato al eretz yisada. We talk about that Hashem founded the world through a few substances. 3 of them are fire, air, and water. And these 3 have been established on the foundation of Aretz, of the land. So we have 4 substances on which the world is built. Fire, air, water, and earth. So va'agudato, and the bundle of the 3, al eretz yisada, has been established on the earth. So we have the number that 3 is called a bundle, called a mahut, an entity. There are different opinions of why aguda is made up of 3, at least 3. And so it's important to remember that there are some, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but it's important to remember that there are some versions which will learn this Mishnah to say that this pasuk is a proof for the next statement. Uminayin afilu shlosha. How do we know that even 3? But those that learn that, like the Alter Rebbe, that va'agudato is a proof for chamisha, so we learned that va'agudato is a bundle together, which is 5 fingers that Hashem, Baruch Hashem, gives for a hand, and the 5 fingers can make an aguda, can make a bundle together, hold a bunch of stuff together. So that's how we know that if 5 people that are learning Torah together, then Hashem's presence is there as well. And how do we know even 3? That will be a proof, according to some, we could take a proof from the previous verse, but over here we learn B'kerev Elokim Yishpot. Amongst the Beit Din, which is the minimum, they are the messengers of Hashem to give us the verdict of the Beit Din, and the minimum of a Beit Din is 3. So we know that if 3 people, don't forget that according to one of the versions, the first statement of the Mishnah, Sarah Shioshvin Voskin Batorah Badin, in judgment. So here we have a proof that even when 3 people are sitting together, that there is a divine presence, a special Hashrat HaShechina amongst them. And how do we know that even two people that are sitting together, the Shekhinah is there with them? Shenemar, as the verse states, and this verse was even quoted earlier when we talked about 2 people discussing words of Torah together. Over there, the pasuk was quoted much longer. Over here, only half of the pasuk is quoted. As nidberu yireh Hashem, have a man with his Hashem yishma, and Hashem listens, so to speak. He listens in to what they're saying. So here we see that the divine presence is there with them. Uminayin afilu achad. And how do we know that even one person who sits and learns Torah, the Shekhinah is there with him? Shenemar, as it says in the verse, every place, any place that my name will be mentioned, I will come to you and I will bless you. So it's a singular term, avo elecha. Even one person who sits and learns Torah and mentions Hashem's name, so to speak, not literally, but alluding to Hashem's name, then we know that Hashem will come and listen and be part of it. Be part of this learning Torah. There's an interesting commentary over here from the Rebbe. It's a little bit technical, but it shows how every detail in the Alter Rebbe's Siddur and the Alter Rebbe's Mishna, version of the Mishnah, is exact. As we mentioned, that there are differences of opinion of which pasuk we learn to prove for the fact that that the Shekhinah is there even when 5 people are learning Torah together, and which pasuk we use for the fact that to teach us that 3 people are learning Torah together, that the Shekhinah is there. So according to the Alter Rebbe, the Kerev Elokim Yishpot is for 3 people, is a proof for 3 people that are learning Torah together. So according to that, Elokim, the verse in the Tehillim in chapter 82, it goes as follows: Elokim nitzav ba'adat kel, bekerev Elokim Yishpot. The first half of the pasuk proves to us, as we learned earlier, if 10 people are learning Torah together. And the second half of the pasuk, bekerev Elokim Yishpot, according to Alter Rebbe, it goes to bring up proof that if only 3 people are learning Torah together, according to the other version, it makes a little more sense at first glance, because the first part of the pasuk talks about 10 people, and the second part, but according to Alter Rebbe, the first part of the pasuk proves to us about 10 people, and the second skips 5 and goes to 3. So why would you take one pasuk, divide it up, and split it in such a the first and the second part goes for 3? So here's a beautiful interpretation from the Rebbe. So according to this, we can say that there's a special level of Gilui Elokut, of revelation of Hashem, for 10 and 3. True that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there also for 5 and 1, but there's something special about the number 10 and the number 3. Why? Because this pasuk in chapter 82 in the Tehillim discusses the divine presence in such a way which is connected to the world. And these 2 numbers of 3 and 10 are specifically connected to the world. Because we're going to learn later on in the beginning of chapter 5, Ba'asara ma'amarot nivra ha'olam, the world was created with 10 utterances. So the number 10 is specifically created to Hashem's relationship with the world. Hashem created the world with 10 utterances. And we don't have to look too far to see the connection between the number 3 and the world. We saw it in Pirkei Avot, right here, Perek Aleph, chapter 1, Mishnah 2, the second Mishnah. What did we learn? We learned that Al Shlosha Dvarim Ha'olam Omed, the world stands upon 3 pillars. So we see over here that this pasuk is divided into 2 parts, which are connected to the world, and emphasizing Hashem's relationship specifically with this world. Let's move on to the next Mishnah. Mishna Zayin. Perek Shlishi, third chapter of Pirkei Avot, Mishna Zayin. We'll try to do the first part of the Mishnah, and Bezrat Hashem tomorrow we'll do the second half of the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar Ish Bartota Omer. Rabbi Elazar, a man from Bartota, says, and this Mishnah is discussing the importance of giving tzedakah, charity. So it's short and sweet. 10 lo mishalo, give him from his, give him to Hashem. By giving to a poor person or to a needy organization, you are giving back to Hashem. You're giving your money, your finances. Mishalo, it's his. He gave it to you. The whole world belongs to him. So 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. So give him back what's his. 10 lo, mishalo. At the end of the day, what are you doing when you're giving your tzedakah? You're giving him what belongs to him. That makes perfect sense. Here's the reason. Also short and sweet. She'ata v'shalach shelo. Because you and everything that belongs to you is his, with a capital H. His. So you think when you're giving the tzedakah, you're giving your own money. You think you're such a great person. Well, you should know that really you and everything that belongs to you is his. So just give the tzedakah. 1 + 1 = 2. Or 3 × 1 = 3, like we said earlier. V'chein b'David hu omer. And now the Mishnah, Rabbi Elazar, brings a proof from David HaMelech. What does it say in the verse? Ki mimcha hakol. Because everything is from you. Umiyadcha natanu lach. And from your hand, from you Hashem, your hand, we gave to you. In other words, since you gave it to us, and everything that we have in the world, everything that there is in the world is yours. So when we give tzedakah, not only that, when we are involved in divine issues, whether your own issues, or monetary issues, or of course spiritual issues, get involved. Be part of it. Giving is not only financially, giving is also from your time. Giving is also from your talents that Hashem gave you. If you have a special talent, then you need to use it for spreading godliness in the world. Why do you think Hashem gave you this talent? Not only for your own personal benefits, but primarily for spreading Yiddishkeit and publicizing Hashem's name in this world. Now over here there's an interesting question. First of all, there's a famous verse from Tehillim chapter 24. We recite it every Sunday morning, and very often we recite this verse also on Rosh Hashanah night and Yom Kippur night. La Hashem ha'aretz umlo'ah. The entire world belongs to Hashem. Why do we have to go so far to find a verse which is not very known? Why don't we just use a verse which is very famous in the Tehillim? Also, why does the Mishnah have to say, why should you give tzedakah? Because you and everything that belongs to you is his. Just say, because everything what you have is his. Why does the Mishnah have to say that you are also his? Why is that important? And in general, isn't this a basic mitzvah? Everybody knows you have to give tzedakah, you have to give of your own. What really is the Mishnah telling us over here? And the explanation is that the Mishnah is not coming to tell you, oy vavoy, what happens if you don't give tzedakah? We know the importance of giving tzedakah. What the Mishnah is coming to tell us is how a person should be giving tzedakah. Because it seems to be that according to Torah, a person has ownership over what he has. If you earned it in a kosher way, then you have ownership, like the Talmud explains to us, that in one place, there's the verse that we actually quoted earlier. La Hashem ha'aretz u'maloha, that the entire world belongs to Hashem. And on the other hand, it says in the Hallel, Tehillim, chapter 115, Hashamayim shamayim l'Hashem, the heavens and spirit in the spiritual realm belongs to Hashem. The haaretz natan livnei adam, and the earth was given to man. In other words, we have, it's obviously Hashem's, but we have ownership over it. And the Gemara answers that it depends. Before a person made a bracha or after a person made a bracha. Before you make a bracha on something, it's not yours yet. You have food that you bought. Even though you purchased it, it's still Hashem's. The moment that you make a bracha on it, then it becomes yours. Or let's use another context of learning Torah. The Talmud asks in the first chapter of the Tehillim, first it says, Ki b'torat Hashem chefzo, that your desire is in Hashem's Torah, and then you say, Uv'toraton yageh yom v'layla, and you learn His Torah day and night. The simple meaning is, His Torah is Hashem's Torah. But on a deeper level, Uv'torato, it's your Torah. And the Talmud explains, before you learn the Torah, it's Hashem's Torah. But after you learn the Torah, it's obviously still Hashem's Torah, but then it becomes yours, becomes part of you. You've internalized it. Same thing over here. Once you make a bracha on an object, it becomes quote-unquote yours. So that's what the Mishnah is saying. That even though on regular terms, everything that we have can belong to us, the Mishnah is teaching us over here on a deeper level, not just the regular mitzvah of tzedakah, but our perspective, our understanding on how we are supposed to approach this special mitzvah of giving tzedakah and giving of ourselves. Because it's not enough to say that everything you have belongs to Hashem. For she'ata v'shalach shalo, you and everything that belongs to you is really His with a capital H. Even though you have your own being under regular circumstances, and whatever belongs to you is yours, but on a deeper level, even you are not yours. Even you belongs to Hashem. It's an amazing concept. So why does the Mishnah have to tell us to say that the proof is from David HaMelech? Just bring the quote. It's very unusual for us to tell us that who the verse is referring to, or who said the verse. The answer is that David HaMelech, King David, is the perfect example of the point that Rabbi Elazar is trying to bring out. Who was David HaMelech? He had the great balance between being a king. And a king, like it says in Halacha, you need to stand bebito, with selflessness in front of him. And we need to bow in front of the king. So that's a great level of royal presence, which is very, very important. But at the same time, he was the greatest example of someone who is, sorry about that, he was the greatest example of someone who was humble. David HaMelech, according to the Kabbalah, he was like Malchut. Malchut is the most humble level, even though it's the greatest, it has a great balance of being also humble. And that's why we say about Hashem, L'cha Hashem ha'gdula v'ha'gvura v'teferet, in the shacharit in the morning. You, Hashem, have true greatness and true strength and true beauty. Because someone who is connected to Hashem also has a great balance of greatness and humility. And that's why David HaMelech was the one who prepared the groundwork for the Beit HaMikdash, which the main building of the Beit HaMikdash was through the contributions of Am Yisroel. Ki mimcha hakol, for everything is from you. also the contributions that Am Yisrael gave to the Beit HaMikdash from their own choice. So you might think, oh, maybe it's theirs, maybe at one time it was theirs in order to give it. No. Even what they gave is Hashem's. That's the point that we're bringing out over here, because the essence, the core essence of every single person, every single Jew, every single object in the world is really Hashem's. Ten lo mishalo, she'ata v'shalach shalo. Give him what is his, in other words, to his holy needs, to those that need your contributions, because you and everything that belongs to you is really his with a capital H. It's all Hashem's. Thank you very much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we're going to continue the second half of Mishna Zayin. And of course, we want to invite everybody to Kabbalah Cafe Friday morning at 9:30 right here. And I want to invite everybody tomorrow afternoon at 5:30. Come to the Kotel HaMa'aravi, the Western Wall, where there's going to be a non-forgettable Hachnasat Sefer Torah, welcoming a new Torah, the seventh Torah that was written. Each letter, 304,000 letters, 805 letters of the Torah, each one corresponds to another Jewish child. And Berov Am Hadrat Melech, there will be Bezrat Hashem many thousands of people, of course, within the rules, within the limitations, health and safety limitations. So it's highly recommended to go and to participate in this special occasion. All the best. Have a wonderful day. It's wonderful learning together, and I'm looking forward to Bezrat Hashem tomorrow too. Be well.